I remember when I first became self-employed, became the entrepreneur, the business owner. It was after redundancy, my second redundancy, and it forms a big part of my professional story. But it wasn't until a few years after working for myself that I realized that also influenced my home life, my family life, my drive, goals, and ambitions. Perhaps losing sight of the balance in life. At times I questioned my decisions around business because I didn't really know what working for myself was. I liked the idea of working for myself. We seem to measure success as becoming busy. We lose sight of what we're actually working for ourselves for in the first place. And it's took a lot of personal discipline, research, working, self-development, because they don't teach this stuff in schools particularly well, to become a little bit better, I think. I'm going to dig into that a bit today with our guest around entrepreneurial leadership, self-discipline management, future leadership, and how we can create and strive for the balance that we set out to achieve. Gary King, good morning to you. I've been observing a lot of your social posts over the past few months, and that's what we're going to dive into today. But for the benefit of the viewers and the listeners, please give us an introduction. Who are you? Where are you? And what do you do?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for inviting me on. Yeah, really simple. Gary King. I run 3 small businesses that all help SMEs. The main one being Tendo, which is all about strategy and business mentoring. And we're in Leeds today, so not far from you, not far at all.
Brilliant. And just give us a bit of your background, Gary. Why do you do what you do? What's the thing with helping SMEs in particular? What's your journey into that space?
No, I think yeah, absolutely. I think I've followed a similar journey to you, actually. I spent the first 24 years of my career working for other people in a large SME, a 40 million turnover SME. Then I went to work in a FTSE 100 corporate business, and I was lucky enough to be given a couple of quid to leave. So it gave me a little bit of working capital to set up. But it was 2010, in the middle of the banking recession, and I thought, you know what, I'm fed up of working for other people. I want to be in charge of my own destiny. I was fed up of working the long hours and not getting the recognition and having to prove yourself every time a new leader came in. And I'd just seen in that recession, and I'd had first-hand experience of family members that have set up and run and sometimes successful, but not always successful small businesses. And I thought, there's got to be a better way for me to share all of that experience, all of that knowledge, all of that expertise that I gained over the years to help these small business owners. And I thought, if I can find something that I can do to help these small business owners succeed, then that'll give me a huge sense of gratitude and give me some purpose. And you know, to kind of follow that on to that, why am I in business? Why do I keep doing that? Rob, 95% of small businesses fail. 95% ultimately. And I think it's something like 56 or 58% fail in the first 3 years. And that is heartbreaking, that statistic. So I just want to change that dial a few percent. If I can just help a handful of small business owners to change that dial and improve those failure statistics and get better out of business, what, you know, some of the things you've alluded to, then that's what puts fire in my belly.
Brilliant. And it's reflected in the content that you do and the work that you do. It's evident to see there's a purpose behind that. I think sometimes that gets forgotten, doesn't it? Because we set out working for ourselves just to get busy. And like I said in the introduction, like the idea of becoming a success, of working for ourselves sounds great. And since I was like, I don't know, 8 or as small as I can remember, I always said, I want to work for myself. But then you get into this safety net of employment. And for me, it was redundancy that sort of pulled that away. Unlike you, I didn't have a sort of redundancy package. So it was a sort of, well, what am I going to do for next month's bills? And that was when I think the reality of working for yourself actually really hit. It's like, it's a nice idea, but then reality happens and you've got to look after next month. And I had a 2-year-old and a pregnant wife at the time, and it was a bit of a struggle. But you know, you muddle through and you find out what it is. But I've made a note here about one of the points that I saw on your social media, saying running your own business is often seen as a great way of being able to have a greater choice, even more money, and earn more money and having more freedom. Those are the sort of selling points, aren't they, of why we go and work for ourselves or why we set out in business or leadership. But why does it never materialize, or why does it rarely materialize, do you think?
Do you know what? That's a great question. The reality is that most small business owners are actually building the wrong business. The very thing. And look, I'd been around entrepreneurs pretty much all of my career and all of my life. And I dreamed one day of running my own business, but did I have the balls to take that leap of faith? Did I really know what I wanted to do? No. The reality is that that very thing that you think is going to free you up, everybody's got this dream that, I'm a marketing director. I've got a marketing degree. I'll set up a marketing agency, and before I know it, the money's going to come rolling in and I'm going to be living the life. And the reality is so far from the truth. It's unbelievable. And it's because people are building the wrong business. As soon as you get into hiring and firing and prospecting and bookkeeping and payroll and expenses claims and admin and emails and diary management and 1,000 things that come with running a business, it's very, very quick for it to start consuming you, and actually you don't get round to being that marketing consultant or that strategy expert or that photographer or that accountant or whatever it is you choose to be. And you touched on there about purpose a few minutes ago. It's got to be the cornerstone of every small business in terms of the starting point, the datum point. But what happens is people jump straight into running a business without getting clear on what they want out of it. They've got a bit of an idea that they want a little bit of freedom and flexibility, but they don't get crystal clear on what that means. So for me, what is it that puts fire in your belly? What is it that really ignites that inner passion? You've got to build a business that allows you to do that every single day. But the reality is, when I see small business owners, they've lost the mojo because they're not doing that very thing that they love. But also get clear on how much money you want to earn and what you're going to spend it on. So it's not just about saying, I want to earn more money. Get clear how much. Do you want 10 grand a month? Do you want 5 grand a month? Do you want, 100 grand a year, whatever? What are you going to spend it on? Is it school fees, pensions, holidays, car, house, whatever? But also get clear on the lifestyle. I want to work 3.5 days a week and I'm going to do this with my time off. One of my good friends, Louise, she runs a wordsmithing business, so kind of copywriting and award submissions. And she said her purpose is really simple. I want to write and I want the freedom to take my kids to school. Really simple. But what happens is small business owners start building a business and they start executing strategy and they lose sight of what puts fire in their belly, how much money they want to earn, and what lifestyle they want. And before they know it, they're building a business that doesn't give them any of those three things.
No, absolutely. It's fascinating listening it back because we do a lot of work with trades businesses. We have a group of trades business, and a lot of those fall foul. Maybe that sounds a bit harsh. I don't mean that to be sort of like a negative thing, but what you just explained, they almost get into the job because they inherit it. It's a hand-me-down. They're good with their hands. They're good at managing tools, but they don't realize alongside that they are running a business and they are responsible for admin, invoicing. The amount of tradespeople we spoke to where they're behind on invoices. I don't know who's paying me what. They don't know what their profits are. They just get busy and they'll fill the diary. They'll say, I don't want to work Saturdays, and they'll be out working 12 hours on a Saturday. It's crazy. And I think I was just going to ask to help sort of frame that. Is a lot of this a mindset issue? Do you think people need to, when they're setting out working for themselves, think of themselves as business owners first that have the skill, not I'm good at this, therefore I'll run a business? Is it a bit of a mindset shift that we need to develop?
I think it is, but it's more than that. It's this concept of a technician business owner. I'm a trained plumber, or I'm a trained architect, or a trained photographer, and I'm going to set up a business doing what I've trained to do. That's what you would do. But we don't know what we don't know. And the reality is that we don't know if we're, I speak to countless people. I was with a guy on Friday who's got a trades business. He inspects railway structures at height on behalf of the rail network. And that's what he's trained to do. And he's one of probably only 25 people in the country that can do that. But he said, I'm not a business owner. I've not been trained to run a business. I've been trained to inspect properties. So there is a bit of a mindset in terms of saying, somebody that's been running a business for 10 years and they're turning over multi-million pounds, that is a successful business to a degree. Depends how you measure it, of course. But you still got people saying, I've never been taught how to run a business. I'm not a business owner. Well, actually you are. So there is that bit of a mindset change. But those business owners have got to be taught, once they're clear on the purpose. So I don't want to work 12-hour Saturdays. I want to spend time with my kids, my family. They don't know how. They don't know how to build the right business. You know, this whole concept of having a plan that gets them from A to B quicker and more effectively, they just don't know how to do that. And then that mindset change is two things. Firstly, you need to invest in developing a plan. Have I got the time? Do I know how? Can I afford to? Can I afford to spend money to get somebody to help me? What goes in the plan? How useful is the plan? Will I get a return on the plan? But also, you've got to invest in people. You know, if you've got a tradesman that's working 12 hours on a Saturday and they don't want to be working 12 hours on a Saturday, they need to be building a different business, but they also need to be building a team. But they're reluctant to spend money on people because they don't know how to recruit. They don't know if they can afford it. They don't know if they're the right people. And so they say, well, it's better to do it myself. And that's the very thing that traps them.
Yeah. So yeah, the reluctance or I guess the risk averse, or I don't know what, or saying yes to everyone as a customer, taking 20 quid jobs the same as they would a £2,000 job. It's a real challenge because they get busy. And you mentioned as well about your friend there, who I think it was the copywriter, who wants to say, I want to write stuff and take my kids to school. There's an element of lifestyle by design. I think it was from the 4-hour work week that sort of suggests lifestyle by design. And I think it's a really undervalued phrase. You know, you can build in today's world, you can build whatever business you want to build, but where the habits that we've learned show that you need to work 70, 80 hours a week to be successful. And there's one guy I know who he wanted to be home on Fridays for his kids before they went to school because they were still in nursery. Like, well, you can do that. It's like, well, I can't because I'm a business person. But now he's working, I think, 3.5 days a week, and he's got the other day and a half doing what he wants to do. And I think that's definition of success for us all, which I want to touch on in a little while, is important. And we don't go by this society view of success. Because, Gary, I see, and I'm sure you do as well, these gurus, the guru culture, I've got my own opinions on them, which you're probably aware of. Where do you sit with this guru culture? You must be a billionaire if to be successful. Where do you sit with that? Is it helping or hindering entrepreneur?
I think it's hindering. I think it's bullshit, most of it, if I'm honest. You know, most of these people that are showing pictures of themselves in front of yachts and cars and all the rest of it haven't actually got a successful business. All they're doing is selling a dream. They're selling snake oil. There are a handful of those out there that are a bit more modest. You know, there's one or two people that are in my network that I hugely admire that have the money. You know, one lady on social media this morning, she's been in business 10 years and her Stripe account hit £11 million worth of revenue this week. She's successful, but she doesn't, you know, and she does talk about some of the benefits of success, whether it be, you know, she's bought a new handbag, or, you know, she's been on this holiday or bought this home or whatever, but she's not selling snake oil. But I think, you know, I think a little bit this guru and this kind of culture of get up at 4 a.m. and drink a kale smoothie and, you know, do a 2-hour workout before, you know, working a 15-hour day. And the thing is with entrepreneurs and being a small business owner, you can actually build a business where you can work 3.5 days a week or 4 or whatever you choose. You don't have to work weekends. But there is this concept, there is this idea that if I only work 3.5 days, I'm not taking this seriously, and people are going to look at me like I'm a bad leader, I'm a bad boss, I'm not taking it seriously. And I think, you know, you've got to change the mindset. Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it? It is almost like, for me, sets these entrepreneurs up for a fall, because they're obviously crying out for help somewhere. I don't know what, I've never run a business before. I don't know what I'm doing. This guy, they're often guys, look rich. This must be easy. It's a silver bullet, and then it doesn't work, and it always compounds the misery. And I'm not saying these people don't know what they're doing, because they're obviously quite intelligent somewhere along the line. But the fact that it appears that they're selling a dream that doesn't exist really bothers me. It's a real frustrating one when you see them on their jets and stuff. Do
you know what? There is one guy that is very successful financially. I won't name names. He's American. And you can go to his kind of weekend retreat, And, you know, it's gone Zoom now. So there's literally thousands of people on screen. And these people are paying thousands of pounds to go. And he sells them this dream and gets them all fired up and gets them all motivated and excited. And some of it's business and some of it's life and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. And you leave there with a real kind of wow. The problem is that none of it comes to fruition.
No.
Because you've been G'd up and you're high-fiving everybody and all the rest of it. And then what happens is 3, 4, 5 months later, you hit this dip because you've left there with all this euphoria and all this excitement and all this motivation, and then it doesn't come to reality. So you hit this dip. And then of course, what happens in 4 or 5 months when you hit that dip? You need another hit. So you go back again for the same or similar weekend at the same or similar value just to get that dopamine hit. And actually, and I see a lot of people kind of, lauding this guy, and it's great and that's fine. But how many people actually walk away from these things and actually see a long-term sustainable result, long-term sustainable ROI on that time and money investment?
Yeah, it's really challenging. And then they have the goal to say, well, you didn't put enough effort in, or it's on you. It's your fault. And then you get blamed for it. And it's just a toxic.
It's NLP.
Yes.
All they're doing is rewiring your brain, and then they blame you, and then you feel guilty, and then you go back for another hit. And it's just, look, I offer a full money back guarantee with what I do, because I want to put my money where my mouth is. If you don't get results, you've put the time, the money, the effort in, and you don't get results, I'll give you your money back.
Yeah.
Because that gets me focused on delivering value rather than selling a dream, and it gets the client focused. Excuse me. So, and I'm one of only probably two experts in the UK that offer that.
Wow.
Out of 45,000. Now, why is that? Why do the other 44,998 not offer a money back guarantee?
Because they want to get on planes.
Well, they want to get on planes. They want to talk a good game and not deliver value. They want to take the wrong customers on for the wrong reasons. There's a whole bunch of scenarios, but for me, it gets me focused, and I stay in my lane with it.
Yeah. And that's not saying there aren't good. Obviously, there are tremendous business leaders and entrepreneurs and gurus out there. But there's also a sort of peer pressure. I don't know if you've ever observed this, but there's almost like a peer pressure or an expectation that if one of your friends say they're working for yourself, it's almost like, well, are you a millionaire yet? Well, not yet. Well, you're not successful then. And I think it probably stems somewhere from that guru thing, or maybe a bit of envy from your social circle that they aren't doing what you're doing. But yeah, there's a stigma, I think, that if you went to your social circle and said, I only work 3.5 days a week, they'd either say you're lazy or you're not successful enough, or you're winging it. Do you observe that in your sort of space?
Yeah, I do, because people have got this view of small business owners that you work long hours and you earn loads of money, and and maybe it is a bit of jealousy of people that are trapped working for other people. I met a guy recently who hated his boss, hated his job, hated the company he worked for. Now he's in public sector, to be fair. Hated his boss, hated the kind of the part of the business he worked for, hated his job. So I said, just leave. Oh, he said, I've got 9 years left before I can take my pension.
Yeah.
So he was prepared to put up with something he was deeply unhappy with for the next 9 years, just to have enough money to retire. Like, no. But if you can build a business that allows you to work fewer hours, that allows you to earn a decent amount of money, if you build a business that allows you to do the school run, if you allow a business, I put a post out last week when I set up in business, a bit like you, I didn't see my son, who was football training 3-4 miles away from where I was based, because I was working long hours trying to build a business, and I was justifying it by going, I've got to build this business. And he said one day, Dad, are you ever going to come and see me at football? Oh my God, that was like a dagger in my heart. And it's at that point I realized there was something wrong. I'd set up this business to have more freedom and more flexibility. I wasn't going to see my son play football 3, 4, 5 miles away. So I knew something had to change. And I think that's a trap we get caught in, that we're justifying working long hours and compromising the things we shouldn't be compromising. And we justify it by saying we have to work long hours.
Yeah.
And it's just not right.
Yeah, I'm working this long hours to look after you, but you're not looking after me. So it's a real paradox, isn't it? A
Yeah.
bit of a push and pull. I mean, yeah, sort of stemming from that. Then obviously you had that sort of moment where your kid went, "Are you ever going to come and watch me?" I assume, yeah, we have to look at success outside of just financial. Yeah, we obviously measure success with how many hours you work, how much money you make. We've mentioned or touched on a little bit about lifestyle by design, 3.5 days, 4 days, school run, whatever that might be. And it's good that those conversations are happening. But how do you start the conversation with someone who's never had business training before, is in that mantra of just get busy? How do you help them break that and start to define what success looks like to them?
Yeah, no, great question. Great question. Look, it's as I touched on earlier, when I'm business planning, and just statistically, in the UK, of which there are nearly 6 million small businesses, only 23% have a written down plan. Less than 1 in 4 small businesses have a written down plan, and 95% will fail. Now, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out there's a correlation between no plan and failure, right? So when I'm working on a business plan with a small business owner, however they come to me, sometimes they come to me because they're in dire straits. Sometimes they come to me because they're just coasting a little bit. Other times they come to me because even though they're successful, there's untapped potential. And the starting point is always purpose. And there are kind of 5 elements. I touched on 3, but there are 5 elements of purpose. What is it puts fire in your belly every single day? What's your purpose? How do you want to impact the community you serve? What legacy do you want to leave? So that's the first one. What puts fire in your belly? Second one is what service and value do you deliver? The third one is what's the size of the market that you want to capitalize on? Is there enough headroom for you to grow? The fourth one, what financial rewards do you want the business to give you and what are you going to spend it on? And the fifth one is what lifestyle do you want and what you're going to do with your time off? So if you got clear on what puts fire in your belly, what you want to deliver, can you grow, how much money you want to earn, and what lifestyle you want, that's a good starting point. So if a business owner goes, I want to work 3.5 days a week because I want to be able to do school run, or I want to be able to take I had one guy who said, look, my wife only works 4 days. I want to work the same as her so we can spend, we can have a 3-day weekend. And that's fine. Louise, who says, I want to be able to do the school run while my kids are of an age where they want me to do the school run. Of course, there'll become a time when they don't want her to do that. So that's about having choice. Now, if you've got a business that allows you to enjoy family time, enjoy friends time, for those that know me well, I follow my football team home and away. I barely miss a game. I'll be in Bournemouth midweek, get home at 4 o'clock in the morning. Now I choose to do that. That's how I choose to spend my spare time. But I've built a business that allows me to do that. So get clear on what it is that you want to do in your spare time. Get clear on what financial rewards you want. The reality is most of us don't need to be a millionaire to have a house that's adequate, a car that's adequate, and go on a couple of holidays a year. We don't need to be a millionaire for that. No. So we just need to get clear on what we want the business to give us and then work backwards to say, what are the strategies I need to adopt to achieve that lifestyle, that mojo, and those rewards?
Sounds logical, right? I mean, do you speak to established businesses that have also forgotten this as well? Or is that a startup conversation? Is that an early years conversation or a mature business as well?
They're always established. And the reason is, and you've touched on it without mentioning it, is when a business owner starts out, they believe they've got the magic formula. So if I take that fictitious kind of marketing, so I've been a marketing director, I've got a marketing degree, I've been successful for 20 years, I've taken a redundancy check, I'm going to set up a marketing agency. What could possibly go wrong? I'm brilliant at marketing. Actually, when you're running a marketing department for somebody else is doing payroll, accounts, bookkeeping, sales, prospecting, networking, social media. Somebody else is doing all of those things. And so what happens is they think they can do it all themselves and they crack on. But it isn't until they get 2 years in that they realize I'm working 60 hours a week. I'm barely paying myself. I hate doing what I'm doing. I'm spending 3-4 days a week doing all of this long list of stuff. And I can't remember the last time I actually did any marketing in front of a client that I love. And it's usually about the 2-year point that they go, this isn't working, it's broken. That's
That's
usually
interesting.
about the time that they pick the phone up.
It's interesting. You can see that trend emerge. You sort of you scurry along, and then you hit this sort of 2-year wall. It kind of touches on one of the questions I was gonna mention shortly. So I think it's probably a good time to sort of move into that. I have observed in my own businesses, my own projects, where, and I sort of define this myself, so bear with me a second if it doesn't make any sense. You feel content. You're almost like, well, if measure one was to stop this mad legs under the water thing going along to pay next month's bills, whoop, cool. I'm kind of there where I need to be. But I know it's not enough, but I'm content. But I need more, so I have to drive more and work more, but I'm content. And it's kind of this, and the wife will say to me, oh, she's like, you're never just happy with what you've got. I was like, well, I am happy with what I've got, but I also want more. and I kind of refer to this as always like the entrepreneurial paradox, if you like. So I know I'm kind of here at what I define as level one. There's no reference point for that. It's just my level one. I know there's more up there, but I don't know what I need to do to get there. Do you observe that almost that ceiling? You've referenced it, I think, in that sort of 2-year ceiling. Do you see that I'm content, but I want more? How do we get over that? And also, what's the breakthrough to get to that level 2, which I've so loosely defined? 2 big questions there, so maybe take some time to unpack them.
Do you know what? I think there's multiple ceilings. You know, I mentioned this phrase earlier. You don't know what you don't know. You're only as good as your skills and your knowledge and your experience will take you. And that's a benefit of having a circle of good people around you, is that people will challenge you in a good way in terms of, well, you shouldn't be working those hours, or you shouldn't be doing that. People always challenge you to say, well, do you want more? How are you going to achieve more? What are you going to do differently? So it's about having the right circle of people around you to challenge that kind of thinking, because you get kind of trapped, don't you?
Yeah.
But you know, you see this with sports people and coaching. You know, you're only as good as your current capabilities will take you. Then you need that breakthrough. You need somebody else to help you find that breakthrough for you to push on to the next level. And then you hit another ceiling. And then you need to break through that ceiling. And sometimes the different ceilings for different reasons. So if I take that, you know, typically a small business owner's working by themselves. They don't want to outsource anything. They don't want to take people on. There's only so much capacity they can deliver by themselves when they're doing all these other things that come with running a business. So if I take that kind of fictitious marketing person, you can only deliver so much work in the time that you've got, because you've got to do all these other things that come with running a business. And then you get to the point where you're working 60 hours, not paying yourself, you've lost your mojo, and you think, what's the point? Have I made the right decision? Should I just go back to employment? Because I'm working all these hours and I'm not seeing the financial rewards. Then they might engage with somebody like me, and they might go, well, actually, you are earning a little bit of money. What you need to do is invest that money in building a team or outsourcing certain bits. And then you can free time up to do more delivery that puts a mojo in you, you know, gets your mojo back and earns you more money. And that's one of the strategies I adopted, Rob. You know, I was working a 6-day week. I was doing my expenses claims at 1:30 in the morning, thinking there's got to be a better way. I'd lost my mojo. I was 2-3 years in. My relationship had failed, so I was kind of single. I wasn't seeing my son play football. I'm doing my expenses claims at 1:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I rang my accountant the next day and says, can't you do this? And he went, yeah. And I went, well, why aren't you? He says, well, you've never asked me. And it's at that point I realized that I didn't have the right accountant around me, because what a good accountant would do is they'd come into my business and go, hey, Gary, what's broken? What can we fix? But the fact I was doing my expenses at 1:00 in the morning told me that I couldn't, I certainly didn't set up a business to do that. So I found an accountant that would take all of that bookkeeping, mileage reconciliation, payroll, everything finance related, I outsourced. That freed up a bunch of time. I then actually analysed what I was doing, and I went, right, I'm now spending 2.5 days a week doing all this admin. emails, diary management, document population, you name it. There was a whole list of stuff. And I couldn't afford to find somebody to do it, but then I couldn't afford not to.
Yeah.
So I found myself a business that provided PA support. And I just started off at 10 hours. And at the time, it was £20 an hour. So I thought £200. Now, back then, it was a lot of money. I wasn't paying myself enough money. So investing £200 in something was a tough decision. I was trapped. So my thought process was this: if I can offload 10 hours work for £200, in that 10 hours, can I earn enough money by doing more client-facing stuff that outstrips £200? And the answer was yes, and I did that. So I earned more than enough money. I paid the £200, I had a little bit left over. So I was actually quids in. The next month I did 300, the next month I did 400. I think at the height I was paying 1,200 quid. Now, people used to say to me, you're not spending 1,200 quid on a PA. No, I'm freeing up 60 hours a month. That's 15 hours a week. That's 2 days a week. So I'd gone from working a 6-day week, not seeing my son play football, doing my expenses claims at 1:30 in the morning. Literally within a matter of months, I'm working 4 days a week. So I was taking Fridays off. I never missed a football game from that point on. And actually, I was spending 3 days a week doing stuff that I loved because I'd freed all of that time up to do more client delivery. So
yeah, it's a real good case study. And thanks for sharing it. I think it's a real good example about how small, relatively small, and yes, at the time, £200 relatively big, but the accountant step sort of connected with me, because I remember when I first started, I was self-employed, not a limited company. I attempted, because I assumed that's what I had to do, doing my own tax return. And if anyone's seen the self-assessment website, it's not the most easy thing to use. And I ended up getting a fine because I filed it wrong. It was late and it was, oh my God. And that triggered me to go and find an accountant, who's still my accountant today. And he managed to get that fine cancelled, but also realised I could claim something back from the year before. So he'd actually paid his first year's fees from what he'd saved and got me back.
Yeah.
So I think if you can not see them as an expense, but as you sort of reference part of your team, even as a small, tiny business, you still have to have a team. One of my favourite sort of sayings, I think it was Jim Rohn who said, you can't succeed in business by yourself. Yeah. It's a big reason why the businesses that I have are all collaborative joint efforts. But absolutely, that external expert pool is great. I mean, who would you suggest surrounding yourself with? For someone starting out, for someone who's wholly new to this, or they're at that 2-year wall and they're doing it all ourselves, where would you start in surrounding yourselves with these experts? What do you need?
Yeah, great question. Well, obviously, I'd say you need a half-decent business mentor. I would say that, wouldn't I? But, you know, I think you hit the nail on the head when you say don't see them as a cost, see them as an investment. The problem is there's so many advisors out there that are not very good, and knowing how to sift the wheat from the chaff is a whole different conversation for another day, Rob.
Yeah.
You know, I took on board an accountant that I thought was great. I got to a point when I realized that they'd taken me as far as they could take me, and I needed to move on. And it's that point of realizing, what do you want? Now, I didn't know what I didn't know, so I didn't know any different. But I learned what I wanted from an accountant, and I realized at some point I needed to move on. So, you know, get yourself an advisor. Now, consultant, mentor, coach, call them what you will. Get somebody that's been there, done that. Get somebody that's wiser than you from a business expertise, a business planning, a business support perspective. There are literally thousands out there. But you know, understanding the good, the bad, and the ugly is, as I say, another conversation. That was certainly the pivotal point for me. Somebody saying to me, get rid of these bad customers, put your prices up, outsource your PA. You know, so it took that business mentor. That was transformational for me.
Yeah.
Find yourself a decent PA support, admin support, somebody that can get rid of that long tail of to do that you getting dragged into. And yeah, you might be good at it. Yeah, you might be a bit of a control freak. But if you're a control freak and you're not in control, you're just a freak. So just outsource all of that admin to somebody that just gets it. And you know what? They've set up a business to do that. They're experts at it. Get yourself a decent accountant. And again, you know, I get criticized from accountants about some of my content about accountants. There are a lot of ones out there just going through the motions. That you know, that example I shared with you where, you know, they're not, they're being lazy, they're adopting the methodology that they've used for years. My simple view is the proactive accountants are the ones that come into your business, ask you the right questions, see where you can automate, simplify. What reports do you want? In what format? You know, should you be doing this? Should you be doing that? You know, my accountant runs a business called Not Just Numbers. The clue's in the title. Yes, we do numbers, but it's not just about numbers. She gets right under the surface in my business to understand exactly what's going on and makes recommendations. You know, get rid of this customer, put your price up here, launch this new product. She holds me to account. So certainly getting hold of a decent accountant, a decent one, and don't buy accountancy fees on cost. You know, I pay £600-700 a month for my accountant fees, and I you know, look into multi-million-pound businesses that are not paying anything like that. I was with on Fridays running a multi-million-pound business. He's paying less than 15 a year. Well, guess what our conversation was about?
Yeah.
No visibility on this. Everything's on a spreadsheet. What happens here? What happens there? Things going wrong. Things getting missing. Well, that's going to happen if you buy things on the cheap. So you know, it's got to be about investment, not cost.
No, I like, yeah, it's about investment, not cost. I like that.
So definitely accountant, definitely an advisor of some description, definitely a PA or admin support. They're the kind of first three names on the team sheet for me.
Yeah, brilliant. I think it's a nice way to sort of, yeah, look at that as your team. Even the smallest business, even a growing business, can have that external influence. And Gary, I'm conscious that at Tara, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I was going to throw a bit of a curveball in that's not on the sort of list here that I had as questions I wanted to ask. But I wanted to think about what the future might look like in terms of leadership, in terms of entrepreneurialism. We've got the world's information at our fingertips. We can speak to accountants in other countries if we wanted to build our team in other countries. We're chatting over Zoom right now. That is going to either make us more efficient or it's going to make the opportunity for us to get more busy.
Yeah.
Where do you see the future of entrepreneurship, leadership? Is there a generational swing, gap, pressure? What does it look like, do you think?
Yeah, do you know what? Great question. I think we're on the cusp of something massive changing. I remember reading a book years ago, and it was called, I'm just trying to think of the author, and it was called The World is Flat. And basically what he was saying is that there's no traditional barriers to success. And there was a particular tale in this book where American children that wanted extracurricular English were going online for English lessons, but it was Japanese students that wanted to earn more money to supplement their studying, and they were not only delivering English lessons over technology to America, that actually learned to speak in a local dialect.
Wow.
So that the American child wasn't speaking to somebody with a Japanese accent. This child in Texas was speaking to somebody that they thought had a Texan accent. So the Japanese children were students were delivering over technology, English lessons in a local American dialect. Now, if you just think, I think it was Thomas Friedman that wrote that book. That is powerful. I'm talking that's 15, 20 years ago. There's a whole bunch of entrepreneurs that are going to make millions from their bedroom. Affiliate marketing. You know, I was looking last week on Etsy. You can buy a business plan template on Etsy. I've got a business plan template. You can buy a business plan template on Etsy. I think it's £3.50. This guy on Etsy who's got a range of products has sold over 200,000 products on Etsy. So he doesn't have to go to the post office and deliver anything. He's designed an asset, he's marketed that asset, and he's sold 200,000. Let's just say is an average of £3 each. It's 2/3 He doesn't have to go to the post office and deliver it. He's designed it once and he's delivered it 200,000 times. Now, what's the cost in his business? Next to nothing. That's
It's a
pretty
Word
much
doc.
your profit.
There you go. Here's a Word doc template.
And I look at that piece of work, and it's exactly the same or a very, very similar version to my business plan template. So he's not having to deliver in front of clients like I do. He's not selling time for money like I do. He's obviously steps in front of me in terms of what he's doing, but that's what we've got. We've bred a whole generation of entrepreneurs that are just going to make a fortune online. And they don't need a team. And if they do need a team, they can be at all corners of the globe.
It's exciting, isn't it? But also there's an element of apprehension because it's stepping into the unknown. But wow, what an exciting time to be in business.
Again, I saw one last week. Again, it's all technology. So this particular video that I saw, where you go on to, I think it was Etsy or Not on the High Street. There was a particular T-shirt, a design of T-shirt. Let's say this T-shirt was £20. What you can then do is go on Canva, which is, I think, is a very, very free or a virtually cost-free piece of software. Design your own T-shirt. There's then a T-shirt printing website where you can upload your design, and they will tell you how much that T-shirt is. You then link your Etsy account to the T-shirt account. So somebody goes onto Etsy, orders your T-shirt, and that link goes straight to the T-shirt printing company that then fulfill your order. They don't deliver it to you and then you package it and go to the post office. So you buy that T-shirt for £15. You go to Etsy and sell it for £20, minus a few percent for commission, and it's pure profit.
Because it's print on demand. You don't have to buy 100 of them or 1,000.
You don't have to buy any. It's print on demand. You don't sell any, you don't print any. So you've got no cost, no warehousing, no storage, no delivery, no packaging. These are just like, there's literally tens of thousands of these ideas. And there are people out there earning, tens of thousands of pounds, whether it be OnlyFans or affiliate marketing or whatever. There are people out there selling content, selling assets, selling whatever, and making a lot of money because we're in a world where people will go online and buy anything.
Yeah, so we just got to look past the traditional way of doing things and think outside the box because it's all possible. And I think that's a wonderful note, I think, of optimism to sort of round off our conversation there, Gary. And I think just in terms of connecting with you, obviously you have your own services, you help a lot of people, your content on social is great. How can people get their eyes on that? How can they find out more about you and your business?
Yeah, brilliant. Great question. So just two simple ways. Gary King at Tendo on LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and I share a lot of content, loads of videos on LinkedIn. My website is tendo-uk.com. And again, I've got tons and tons of free content on there, whether it be blogs, downloadable tools, whether it be videos, podcasts that I've done. There's even a business trap diagnosis, is a quiz that business owners can take to find out exactly where they are trapped. We've talked a lot about that in the last hour, exactly where they are trapped, and it will tell them where they need to focus their next steps to become untrapped. So tons and tons of free resources, tendo-uk.com.
Super. Gary, it's a pleasure to chat to you this morning. Thank you for taking the time. Some real good insight in that conversation, and I'll be sure to share the links in the show notes as we go forward. But Gary, for now, thank you very much, buddy. We'll see you again soon.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you.
Take care.